I'm going to give you my final picks for UFC 282. We'll talk changes to the card, DraftKings strategy, cash games, tournaments, and all that's going to be time-stamped in the description. You can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. If you haven't already, go back and watch the video from earlier in the week. We're talking about the entire card in the predictions video, and there's some things that are covered there that aren't going to be covered today. There are two changes to the card that we have to address since the predictions video. First, we lost OSP. Ridiculous. Trocoli was going to come through big for the gang on DraftKings, but unfortunately, we lose that fight. But we did gain clarity with Santiago Ponzinibbio. He is now going to be fighting Alex Morono. He was initially supposed to fight Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler has to pull out. Alex Morono steps in on short notice. Now the fight's at 180 pounds. Not much changes for me. We didn't talk about this on the predictions video because the fight had already been canceled by the time we were recording it, but Santiago Ponzinibbio had a good matchup against Robbie Lawler and obviously has a good matchup against Alex Morono. I think Santiago Ponzinibbio wins this fight based on having bigger moments and landing heavier shots. I think the volume's going to be comparable on each side, but overall I think that Santiago Ponzinibbio is going to have more pop on his shots. He might be fresher later if Alex Morono has any kind of cardio issues for stepping in on short notice. I don't think Santiago Ponzinibbio knocks Morono out. I don't think Santiago Ponzinibbio wants any part of Morono's ground game either. I just think that he's going to win a decision by having bigger moments. I don't think he puts Morono down. Morono has a good chin. We've seen that in the UFC. But for me, Santiago Ponzinibbio is the play. Not on DraftKings though. I like him from a straight betting perspective, but definitely not on DraftKings. I don't see him looking for a ton of takedowns. Even if he does, I don't see him having a lot of success staying on top. I don't think that he's going to throw a ton of strikes, but a good amount, and he probably scores less than 80 DraftKings points this week. His last two fights were close, and if he won both of those, he would have scored 78 and 72, and before that, he scored 79. So Ponzinibbio, not somebody I'm dying to get to, but somebody who I think has a clear path to victory and wins by decision. Those are the only changes at the time of recording this, so we can get right into building lineups, and we'll start with cash game lineups. Now, if you're not playing cash games and you want to skip ahead, you can use the timestamps in the description to do so, but stick around for 1 second. Bring it in. Why aren't you playing cash games? What, not enough excitement? Not enough meat on the bone? Listen, man, don't sleep on cash games. You want to have zero in your account at the end of the night, or you want to have something there even if you didn't have a great night. Don't sleep on cash games. So for cash games this week, I think what a lot of people are going to do is they'll come to Ankalaev, they'll come down here to Blachowicz, and they'll stack the main event. That makes a lot of sense for this event and this week specifically, because I don't think that Ankalaev is going to lose this fight, but I don't think that he's going to hunt for a finish either. If Jan finds himself in a situation where he's falling behind in the first round and the second round, and he knows he needs to pick it back up, maybe he starts to let his hands go more, I think he provides a very safe floor for us as a loser this week. And normally when you're playing cash games, it's common for you to stack the main event because you have 5 rounds to work with. Not all main events are the same, like Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. No way you're stacking that fight. But here in this situation, I think both of these guys put up decent scores in their respected roles as winner and loser. And I want to grab somebody else who's cheap as well. I'm thinking of coming here and grabbing somebody like Perrin. The reason why I want to grab Perrin in this situation and not Dalcha or Koslow or Gordon is because I think he has the lowest chance of being finished early. We've seen Perrin twice in the UFC. We saw him make his debut on short notice against Mario Bautista, and he wasn't completely outgunned, scoring 33 DraftKings points. And then against Ayori Kilang, he scores 65 points, and he almost wins that fight. If he had maybe another 30 seconds to work with, he was going to win that fight. I almost want to say he scored more than his opponent that day. If not, it's probably pretty close. But Perrin, I think, has a good chance of not getting finished right away, and he might even win that fight if Raul Rosas Jr. somehow gasses out late or isn't able to win minutes later in these rounds. Dalcha Lungiambula, I think, could get knocked out early. I think that Steve Koslow wins this fight and the line is too wide, but if you're playing it safe and you're playing in cash games, I wouldn't recommend it because he's either winning in the first round or he's going to get knocked out in the first round. Jared Gordon's chin is too suspect for me, especially against a guy like Patty who's going to bring the fight to him, and then Daniel Da Silva kind of in a similar situation. And now I've got 88.66 left over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to Erik Silva, who I fully expect to win. He's making his debut, but I like him to win in this fight. And what you could do if you want is come all the way up here to Edmen Shabazyan. That leaves you with 8,900. You can go grab Salvador if you'd like. There is some risk associated with Salvador because of how hard Daniel Da Silva hits and what he's like in that first round. If you wanted to make this a little bit safer, you could come down a little bit and come down to Patty. Now you've got 9,200 left over, and you can go grab Rosas Jr. Jr. And this is interesting because if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're playing Perrin, fully expecting him to lose, but just not losing so quickly, then you might just want to play the other side. That's going to guarantee you another winner in this lineup. And when we play cash games, we don't need 6 winners like in tournaments. We're really looking for 4. 4 winners are normally enough to get you in the top half of those cash game contests, especially the bigger the field that you're playing in. So you've got the winner of the main event, then you've got the winner of the Perrin and Rosas fight, and then you've got Erik Silva, who I expect to win, and Paddy Pimblett, who is one of everybody's favorites of the week. This to me looks like a strong cash game lineup. Another strong cash game play this week is going to be Billy Quarantilo. If you're making lineups for your cash games this week, or if you're making lineups for your tournaments this week and you want to send them to me on Twitter, you can send them to me at Kunith MMA on Twitter. I'll respond to as many as I can and tell you what I think about your lineup. Now for tournaments, obviously we're looking to capture as much upside as possible. Well, the fighters that I think have the best chance of winning their fights early would be Edmen, Shabazyan. Obviously Saaiman's on there. I think the other side of that matchup you should put in there, but I'll just leave it like this for now. I don't think Ankalaev wins his fight early. I think Paddy Pimblett has a good chance of winning his fight early. Obviously Vinicius Salvador has a good chance of winning his fight early. He's a finisher. He fights hard and he fights at a crazy pace, but I think that Darren Till will be able to tough it out and have some success of his own. I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the first round is obviously very live. And then for me to find another person who I think is live in the first round would be either Buckley or Curtis. I'm leaning toward the Curtis side, but I think these are really the 6 fighters, or I guess you could say 7 with Stephen Koslow in there as well, that have a chance of winning their fights early. Clearly you can't play all of these guys in the same lineup, so you're going to have to make some changes. And to this lineup, what we'll do is go the other way in that fight with Saaiman and Koslow. Now we need to get a little cheaper here. Let's say we came down from somebody like Shabazyan, we could still get to Billy Quarantilo. This only leaves 100 salary on the table, but this is also a lineup that has high finishing upside, or at least high ceiling. When you talk about Billy Quarantilo, he might score more than everybody on the slate. With 100 salary left over, another thing that we could do is just come up here to Bryce Mitchell. We left nothing on the table, but this is a favorite heavy card in my opinion. I think really only 3 underdogs might win on Saturday. Really the only 3 dogs that I like this week come down to Bryce Mitchell, Chris Curtis, and Stephen Koslow. And if they all ended up coming through, then I mean you could put together a nice lineup. You could put Vinicius Salvador in there, Rosas Jr. in there. You can go all the way up here to Edmen, Shabazyan. If we look at Edmen Shabazyan's numbers before the 3-fight skid, 116, 101, 130, 98. Ankalaev, who is probably going to go under-owned this week because people know how he gives it up. He doesn't typically score a ton of points. If he looks anything like he did against Thiago Santos, only putting up 80 DraftKings points, then he should go under-owned. Paddy Pimblett, if we look, he has broken 100 once. He put up 98 against Kazula Vargas with a first-round finish. Second-round finish over Jordan Levitt. A first-round finish from Paddy probably gets you there, but Paddy's going to be one of the higher-owned fighters on the slate. Biggie boy, he has that first-round finish ability. Augusto Sakai puts up 106, 127 back-to-back against Alan Crowder and Andre Arlovsky. 90 here against Overeem. You've got 94 here against Junior Albini. With 9,600 left over, if we came all the way down here and grabbed somebody like Billy Quarantilo, who we've seen put up 141, 109, 131. He's got 85 there, 76 there in a loss. If he's awarded the win in that situation, he scores 106 points. With Alex Hernandez, he's dropping down to 145. We don't know how that's going to impact his chin. That's already a little suspect. His gas tank. We could see Billy Quarantilo take over, and if we plugged Billy Q in there and we left 1,100 salary on the table, that's not something that you'll see a whole lot of. Most people that would be put in this situation would probably come off of Koslow and then come here to 8,000 and try to look for another play that makes sense here. In this lineup, you might want to go with somebody like Chris Daukaus since we don't have Rozenstruik. Or even if we went back to Stephen Koslow and try to use a little bit more of our salary effectively, we get Chris Curtis out of there, come up, and we could still grab Rozenstruik. We could still grab Dricus du Plessis. Up in this higher range above 8,700, I think that du Plessis and Salvador are going to go under-owned. I think more people are going to play Saaiman than they should. I think a ton of people are going to play Paddy Pimblett this week. I think that Rosas Jr. is going to get a lot of attention up at that price range as well. So with that said, if we wanted to get really weird and we wanted to play the guys that people weren't playing, you go with Ankalaev, you go with du Plessis, you go with Salvador. And I know a lot of people like Salvador to win, a lot of people don't like Daniel da Silva, so my read could be off on the Salvador being under-owned thing, but I think given with these names, I'm on to something. That leaves us with 7,700 per fighter. In this situation, I him coming down here, and I'm taking a shot on Obi-Wan Shinobi the pillow. That sounds whack coming out of my face. I don't like that. 8,100 left over per position. We could come here to Bryce Mitchell. If he wins, he's wrestling. He's doing the damn thing. He's chaining takedowns together. We've seen him score a ton of DraftKings points. If he has a vintage Bryce Mitchell performance, we're in a good spot. And with 8,400 left over, you could come here to Erik Silva, who I think wins this fight. And while I love the Erik Silva idea, I like the Billy Quarantilo play even more. How do we afford it now, though, with the current lineup if we take Bryce Mitchell out? Well, that leaves us with Alex Hernandez, who can't be in this lineup. Chris Daukaus. Now this is interesting. Here we are again. And you know what? Last week I ended up going through the same thing, saying I don't like Roman Dolidze to win, and then we built a lineup that we thought was weird, and then we got to the same spot. Oh look, Roman Dolidze's right there. And here we are with Chris Daukaus staring us in the face. We've seen Chris Daukaus knock 4 people out to start his UFC career, scored over 100 points every time. Gets knocked out by one of the most prolific knockout artists that we've ever seen. I don't even know if that's doing him justice. The knockout king, Derek Lewis. You getting knocked out by the knockout king is kind of like losing a hot dog eating match to Joey Chestnut. And then he loses to Curtis Blades. He gets knocked out by Curtis Blades, which is strange. It's rare, but think about it. It's a striker versus grappler matchup. We thought if Chris Daukaus won, it's because he knocked out Curtis Blades, landed that volume, fought with that pressure, let his hands go, and got the job done. Not quite the case. Curtis Blades, who's somebody who's the best takedown artist that we've ever seen in the heavyweight division, currently the best grappler in the heavyweight division, you're looking at a situation where he probably is expecting a takedown, thinking takedown, 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 and then the right hand lands and it's all over. I think Derek Lewis would knock out Jairzinho Rozenstruik. We saw what Rozenstruik looked like against Curtis Blades. If we got here to Chris Daukaus, I mean, we're getting weird. We're getting different. I mean, nobody's doing something like this. And obviously, with $100 of salary left over, you have some room to move around if you wanted to. Like, for example, if you wanted to come off of Ankalaev, you're like, you know what, I want to play Patty. You could come up from Duplessis and grab Rosas Jr. if you wanted to. I'm actually going to change my pick on the Chris Daukaus fight. I think that Chris Daukaus gets it done. I've talked myself into it. I have thought about it throughout the week, and now I'm sitting here just destiny brought us back to Chris Daukaus. We have to listen. In Chris Daukaus, we trust, and Chris Daukaus gets the knockout sometime in the second round. And we'll wrap up by looking at some props, but before we do, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how it works. And also be on the lookout for an extra video later in the day for Captain Mode. A lot of us don't play Captain Mode. It's untapped potential, and we're not going to let that pass us by anymore. Opening DraftKings Sportsbook, we're going to look at some props. First, we'll start with round props, and I do post things like this on Twitter at Kunith MMA if you want to take another look. I mean, the under in the Salvador de Silva fight, that's a given, right? And there's a reason why it's minus 200. They know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. I think that's an obvious one. Over 1.5 with the Chris Daukaus Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight is sneaky. It's at plus 125. I like that one. And then we'll look at one more round prop. I think if you took the over in the Dalcha Lungiambula Edmen Shabazyan fight, that makes a lot of sense as well. And you're looking at 5-1. Go to the fight props. Fight goes the distance. No thank you at minus 250 and use that as a parlay piece. You could parlay that up with Daukaus and Rozenstruik. You come here, fight doesn't go the distance in this fight. Let's see what it's lined at right now. You can get that for minus 550. I don't even hate it. Same with Salvador and De Silva. If you came here, I wonder what the fight doesn't go the distance line is on this one. Minus 750. That's a little bold, but that's also how confident they are. I think what makes more sense is if you were to go to the round prop for that fight, and then you could throw in Salvador round 1 is minus 110. I think if you just took the under 1.5 rounds, you're looking at plus 146, around plus 150 for those three. That makes a lot of sense. And then a Hail Mary that you can throw is you can go to Bryce Mitchell's fight. Bryce Mitchell round 3 plus 1600, book it. And we'll quickly wrap up by going over the entire card. I like Steven Koslow despite what the public thinks. I like Vinicius Salvador to get it done. Erik Silva, Billy Q. Give me Chris Curtis at plus money in a very winnable matchup. Edmen Shabazyan. Give me the kid. Give me Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Bryce Mitchell at plus 120. You can give me Drickus Duplessis minus 175. Ponzinibbio, Paddy Pimblett, Magomed Ankalaev. That gives us some pretty tremendous odds. This might be enough for us to be able to help Oscar move out. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal. Every week we want to get nothing but winners, and this is the week. Guaranteed, nothing but winners. You have the picks, you have the knowledge, you have the strategy. Go use it and make some money.